At 27, Daniel wore tiredness the way other men wore cologne, invisibly, but unmistakably present. His eyes were rarely still. His smiles arrived a half-second late, like an actor who had forgotten his cue. He was not careless. He was not weak. He was simply a man who had been thinking for so long that he had forgotten how to feel. Every morning, before his feet even grazed the cold floor of his London flat, his mind had already sprinted ahead. What if I fail? What if I choose the wrong path? What if I waste the one life I have? The questions did not wait for answers. They multiplied. And every night, when the city softened and the voices outside faded, his own inner voice grew louder. He would lie in the dark and replay old conversations, old mistakes, old doors he had closed too early or too late. Sleep was not rest. Sleep was just a pause in the argument he was having with himself. His friends said it plainly, "Bro, relax. You think too much." But Daniel could never explain what they didn't seem to understand, that the noise was not a choice. You cannot tell a man to stop hearing a sound no one else can hear. He sat with people, but was somewhere else entirely. He ate, but tasted nothing. He looked up at the sky and only saw problems reflected back. Slowly, life had stopped feeling like life. It had begun to feel like an exam he had not studied for. One evening, a Tuesday, damp and gray, Daniel left his apartment without his phone. He didn't plan to. He simply found himself outside, his coat half-buttoned, walking. London moved around him the way it always did, purposefully, loudly, indifferent to any single person's quiet collapse. Taxis threaded through intersections. People with earbuds navigated the pavement like ships through fog, all of them somewhere, all of them certain. Daniel felt like the only man in the city who did not know where he was going or why. He walked for a long time. Past the lit windows of restaurants, past a busker playing something slow on a saxophone, past couples arguing and laughing in equal measure. He walked until the streets opened up and he found himself at a park beside the river. The city's light lay on the water like scattered coins. A cold wind moved through the willows. The benches were mostly empty. On one of them sat an old man. He was not dressed in a way that announced wisdom. No long coat, no dramatic bearing. He was simply an old man in a gray jacket, tearing small pieces of bread and dropping them for a cluster of pigeons at his feet. But there was something in his stillness, a quality of being entirely here, that made Daniel slow his steps. The old man looked up and smiled. Not the polite, reflexive smile of strangers. A real one. "You look like you're carrying something heavy," the old man said. Daniel almost deflected with a joke. Instead, he stopped walking. "Not in your hands," the old man added quietly, before Daniel could speak. "In your mind." A long pause. The river moved. The pigeons shuffled. "Sit down," the old man said. And without knowing quite why, Daniel sat. For a while, neither of them spoke. The silence was not uncomfortable. It was the kind that opens a space rather than closes one. Then the old man asked, simply, "What is making your mind so loud?" Daniel looked at the water. He meant to say nothing. "I'm fine, sorry to bother you." But something in the question, in the plain, unhurried way it was asked, cracked something loose in him. He talked. He talked about the fear of failure that woke him before dawn. About the relationship that had ended 2 years ago and still played like a film he couldn't stop watching. About his parents' quiet, patient hope, which he felt as pressure rather than love, though he knew it was both. About the terrifying sense that time was accelerating while he stood still. About the catalog of mistakes he carried like stones in his pockets. He talked for a long time. The old man did not interrupt. He did not offer solutions or silver linings. He did not glance at his phone. He simply listened with the full, still attention of a man who understood that sometimes being truly heard is the first medicine. When Daniel finally fell quiet, the old man looked at the river and asked, "Out of everything you've just told me, how many of those problems can you actually solve tonight?" Daniel thought carefully. "Maybe 1 or 2. And the rest? I don't know." "Then why," the old man said, "are you trying to solve your entire life tonight?" The question landed somewhere below argument. Daniel said nothing. "Your mind is tired," the old man continued, "because you were living too many days at once." They walked to the bank. The water moved slowly, calmly, with the patient inevitability of something that has been doing this for a very long time. The old man found a small paper cup lying near the grass. He crouched and set it on the surface. It caught the current and began to drift, unhurried, downstream. "It doesn't know where the river will take it," the old man said, watching. "But it moves anyway." Then he picked up a short stick and pressed it against the water, as if to hold it back. The river, naturally, kept flowing. "What happens if I keep doing this?" he asked. "You'll get tired," Daniel said. "Exactly." The old man straightened up and looked at him. "This is what you are doing with your life. You are trying to stop the river." Daniel was quiet. "You want to control the past, but it has already gone. You want to control the future, but it has not arrived. You want to control what people think of you, what circumstances do to you, what outcomes come from your efforts. And in trying to control all of it, you exhaust yourself on water that will flow regardless." He turned to face Daniel directly. "Peace does not come when life becomes perfect. Peace comes when you stop fighting what you cannot control." Daniel felt something loosen in his chest. Not happiness, not relief exactly, more like the quiet that follows a fever breaking. Someone had named, at last, the shape of what he had been carrying. They walked back to the bench. The old man reached out and said, "May I borrow your bag?" Daniel handed it over, puzzled. The old man began picking up small stones from the path and placing them inside, one by one. When he returned it, Daniel swung it on. "Fine," he said. The old man added more. "And now? A little heavy. More stones." Daniel's shoulders dropped under the weight. "This," the old man said, "is what happens when you collect every worry, every old regret, every imagined future catastrophe, and carry them all simultaneously. One stone is manageable. But when a young man insists on carrying every stone he has ever touched, he becomes exhausted long before his time." Daniel slowly slipped the bag off his shoulders and set it down. "You don't need to carry everything to prove that you care," the old man said. "Sometimes letting go is not weakness. Sometimes letting go is wisdom." Daniel's eyes were wet. He had spent years confusing overthinking with responsibility. He had believed that if he worried thoroughly enough, he could somehow protect himself from pain. But the worry had not protected him. It had only stolen his present, one sleepless night at a time. "What about the mistakes I can't forget?" Daniel asked. "The ones I actually made?" The old man sat back. He took his time. "Your past is a classroom," he said at last, "not a prison. A wise person visits the past to learn from it. A suffering person lives there, convinced they must keep paying rent on a room they've already left. Daniel thought of the exam he had failed, the friendship he had let dissolve through carelessness, the job he had talked himself out of applying for. For years, he had used those memories as evidence, proof that he was fundamentally not enough. Take the lesson, the old man said simply. But stop paying for the same mistake every single day of your life. You cannot become free while holding the same chain and calling it memory. Daniel closed his eyes. Something shifted. For the first time, he did not look at his past with hatred or shame. He simply saw it. And somehow that made it lighter. And the future, he asked. The old man smiled and looked at the sky, which had turned a deep amber at the horizon. The future is like the horizon. You can walk toward it. You can prepare for it. You can work hard and make better choices. But you cannot hold it in your hands. And if you spend today fearing tomorrow, you will lose today before tomorrow ever arrives. He looked at Daniel with a kind of calm directness. When you climb stairs, do you try to jump from the first step to the last? No. Then why are you trying to live your whole life inside your mind today? The park was darkening. The birds had gone quiet. The city lights had begun to glow with more urgency, as cities do at dusk. How are you so peaceful? Daniel asked. The old man considered this. I am not peaceful because I have no problems, he said. I am peaceful because I stopped giving every problem permission to live inside me. He let that sit for a moment. Every morning I ask myself one thing, what is mine to do today? Then I do that. Not tomorrow's work. Not yesterday's regret. Only today's part. Life becomes heavy when you try to carry the past, the present, and the future all at once. He placed his hand gently on Daniel's shoulder. Carry only today. That is enough. Daniel felt his eyes fill, not with sadness, but with something like relief. Permission. For the first time in years, he felt allowed to rest. They said goodbye at the bench. Before the old man left, he turned once more. Remember, if you can fix it, take action. If you cannot fix it, let it breathe. Not every thought deserves your whole life. Daniel walked back through the same city. Same streets, same amber lights, same people rushing past. But something in him had changed, not dramatically, not all at once, but in the way a room changes when someone quietly opens a window. That night, lying in bed, the familiar questions returned. What if things go wrong? What if I fail? But this time, he did not follow every thought into the dark. He paused. He asked himself the question. When the answer was yes, he wrote down one small step. When the answer was no, he took a breath and let the thought pass, not forcefully, not perfectly, but slowly, the way water finds its way around a stone. Day by day, he still had problems. But he stopped becoming the problem. He still had fears. But he stopped feeding them through the night. He still had memories. But he stopped living inside them. Slowly, life came back to him in small things, the taste of morning coffee, the sound of rain on glass, a quiet walk at dusk. His life did not become perfect. But it became lighter. And sometimes, a lighter life is better than a perfect one because peace is not found by controlling everything. Peace is found by understanding what is yours to carry and what you must finally put down. So if your mind is tired today, remember Daniel's lesson. You don't have to solve your whole life tonight. You only have to ask one question. Is there something I can do about this right now? If yes, take action. If no, let it go. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop fighting the river and finally allow yourself to flow. This simple lesson changed Daniel's life. And maybe it can change yours, too. If you know someone who is always stressed, always overthinking, always tired for no reason, share this story with them. And if you want more stories that improve your English and teach deep life lessons, make sure you subscribe and watch the next story. Because sometimes one simple question can change the way you live forever.